We just got a call, and this net revenue measure is actually measuring gross revenue, and the business wants it fixed right now. I'm going to show you how you can do that in record time without even opening Power BI Desktop. Well, we've all been there. You want to make one small enhancement to a model in the Power BI service, and the next thing you know, you've got to open desktop, make that one small enhancement, then publish, refresh a semantic model, and that kind of comes with some challenges. Number one, it might take you a while to refresh that semantic model, and meanwhile, you're serving up old data. If you try to edit that with the XMLA write endpoint, for example, with a tool like Tabular Editor, then you may not be able to re-download that file from the Power BI service, and depending on how you back up your Power BI files, that might be important to you. And you might have a measure that is just simply wrong, and you need it fixed right now, and you don't have the time to wait for another refresh window. So the way that we're going to make that change that the business was requesting is by using TMDL View for the web in the Power BI service. TMDL View has been available in Power BI Desktop since January 2025, and as of July 2026, it is also available in the Power BI service in preview. So when we open our semantic model in the service, this is what you will see. You'll see the model view, which down here on the bottom left, you will see buttons for model view, DAX query view, and TMDL View in preview. If we open up the TMDL View, you're going to see a large text editor window where we can edit and review our TMDL scripts for our model. On the right, you see all the tables in the model, and you can also click on the model tab, and you can see, for example, the relationships in your model or the measures that are in the model. If I want to look at a specific measure, I can come here and search for that measure. I happen to know that it is simply called revenue, and we can either drag this measure out into our text canvas, or we can also right click, select script TMDL 2, so the script tab, and that will draft the TMDL definition for that measure in this text window here. And so you see is writing a create or replace statement and defining a measure called revenue, and then giving this as the DAX measure, so sum the total amount column in the sales amount table. The problem is this is gross revenue rather than net revenue. We've got a different measure for that. So the way that we're going to make this change is we're just going to simply swap out this total amount column for net amount. And you'll notice that the apply button is grayed out, and that is because we are in the viewing mode. And what I can do is click on the preview button, and that will give us a side-by-side diff of what this TMDL script will change. So you can see here the old version on the left, the new version on the right, and we are simply swapping out the total amount column for the net amount column. So when I'm ready to make this change, I can close this out, and I can come up here to the top right and switch this from viewing mode to editing mode, and we can simply hit apply, and it will apply this change in just a second. And now if I come back to the report, notice that this net revenue measure is $3.1 million, and when I refresh the page, it will show now that it is $2.9 million. So a really important thing to keep in mind is that these changes are metadata only. What that means is that something like a measure, which is computed when the measure is rendered on the screen, will take effect immediately. But if it were, say, a DAX calculated column or something in Power Query, the code change will be in place immediately. However, the data will only be refreshed when you refresh the model. So that DAX calculated column is only updated when you refresh the model. And so in order for that to take effect, you would need to process a full refresh after you make your code change. So just keep that in mind, that this is metadata only. In addition, the business has also asked us to add row level security roles. In this particular example, we have stores in 6 different states, and so they want a different security role for each state. And you can see here, if I refresh this, this is the security page for this model, and we don't have any roles in this semantic model right now. If we come back over to our TMDL view, I've gone ahead and prepped up some more TMDL scripts that will create new roles. So for this one, this is a role called FL Sales, and this will create a permission on the stored table where the state column equals FL. We're following a similar role for the other 5 states as well. You can see down here in the bottom right that we currently have 0 roles in this model, and so I can apply this. If I come back to the security page and refresh this, you will also see now we have 6 roles in our semantic model. So let's say that I don't love that column being called net amount. I actually want it to be called net revenue. So another thing that the TMDL script is great for is bulk edits. So what we're going to do is, I've got a clean script open here. I'm going to drag the entire semantic model out here, and so this is what my entire model looks like in code, about 1,500 lines long. And I can search for something by holding out Control and hitting F or Command F on a Mac. This does work on a Mac, by the way. And I can simply search for net amount, and I can expand this guy here, and we can say I want to replace this with net revenue. I can hit enter or hit this button right here, and it will replace where I had net revenue before. You see we went from 1 of 4 to 1 of 3, and I can also rename this column here in this column name in line 186. We can replace that as well. Notice that we've got another thing down here, line 191, so it'll skip to that next. This source column is actually the name of the column coming out of Power Query. I actually don't want to rename it here, because if I did, it's going to be looking for a column coming out of Power Query called net revenue. It's not going to find that unless I were to add a rename step in Power Query. So this will rename the column in the model, and then rename the column that in the measure that is sourcing that column. And so that way everything will still work. So this is a great tool for making bulk updates as well. You want to rename a column, you can do it super fast using this technique. Now let's say I want to make one more edit. I want to come up here and change this total revenue measure to total net revenue. And it's giving me an error message. That's because there are spaces. It wants it inside of single quotation marks. And then we can run this as well. So now we've renamed the measure. But if we come over to the report and we refresh the browser, you'll notice now that all of these visuals are broken, or many of them are broken. And that is because the name changes, they're code only. And whereas in Power BI Desktop, those name changes would cascade throughout the model and into the reporting layer, here these are separate, and those cascades do not flow through. So let's say that I've made this mistake and I want to revert this guy. Well, what I can do is I can come back up here to my model. I can go to File and Version History, and you can see some versions that I've made throughout the day today. Now, this might not necessarily save versions where you want them to, but what you can do is click on this ellipsis and hit the Restore button here. If you're about to do a change that you think is maybe worth saving a version for, you can just come to File and click Save to Version History. This is a really nice feature, and actually something that you cannot do in Power BI Desktop. One more thing to keep in mind is that these TMDL script tabs down here on the bottom are actually ephemeral, meaning that when you close your browser tab, these are going to go away. They are not written to the workspace, nor are they written to your Git repo, even if your workspace is synced to a Git repo. Whereas in Power BI Desktop, any TMDL script tabs will either be saved to the PBIX file or the PBIP project, even as TMDL files. I actually kind of like the fact that these scripts will go away, because they tend to just clutter up my code repository. But just know that if you like holding on to those TMDL scripts, you will want to save these out, because they're not going to be saved here in the Power BI service. So I don't think that Power BI Desktop is going anywhere anytime soon, but I am really excited to see the new TMDL View for the web. I think this closes a gap on web-first development for Power BI. You can still use Power BI Desktop, and like I say, I think it's going to be around for a long time. But this gives you pretty much everything that you need now to do Power BI development in the web natively, and to be much more code forward in how you develop Power BI content. If you're at all serious about building in Power BI, I really encourage you to get more familiar with the TMDL language and also how you can both speed up your work, but also do things that maybe you didn't know how to do before by exploring the TMDL language and how your model comes together in TMDL. You can, of course, do that in TMDL View in Power BI Desktop, but now you can do it in a browser natively. So pick an edit that you've been meaning to make for a little while, open up your model in the browser, open up TMDL View, and let me know what edits that you wind up making down in the comments below. And keep in mind, version history is your friend, and save versions often. And if you want to know more about how you can treat your Power BI projects as code, I've got a great video for you right over here, and I will see you next time.